Heyo, boys!
What's up?
Boys! How we feeling today? How we feeling? Dave, Phil, how we doing?
Good. No complaints.
Good. It's Tuesday.
Minimal complaints.
Minimal complaints. Well,
Tough weekend for you.
yeah, we don't have time for that, unfortunately. So, we're here. We're finally doing it.
We
We've
are.
talked about it for a while. We're going to go for it. Now, all you listeners out there, you may be wondering, who the heck are these guys? What are they talking about? And why the heck am I still here? We are the Final Fantasy Footballers podcast. And we came up with this idea because we're three really good friends. We are very passionate about the sport of soccer. We're Americans, so we call it soccer. But we know for the rest of the world...
Well, I'm from Spain.
You are from Spain. Well, you're from America.
I'm from America, but I grew up in Spain, so...
Okay. Well, we know that it's called football. We'll be probably changing that up constantly. So, you know, it'll be very different every day. But we came up with this podcast because we live in a place where, you know, frankly, what would you guys say? Soccer is maybe the fifth most popular sport in this city. Maybe in that range.
Yeah. Fourth, fifth.
Yeah.
Fourth, fifth, something.
Yeah.
But let's say the gap between fourth and third is massive. So basically, there's not a lot of soccer talk in this city. So anytime we're together, whether it be, you know, a bar, a party, whatever, we tend to group up for 20 to 30 minutes and we basically just talk about, you know, soccer, EPL games, Bundesliga games, La Liga, different players, you know, whatever it is. And we kind of thought to ourselves, why not take all the hours that we spend watching the game, we spend scrolling through Instagram, reading articles, and channel it into something a little more
Productive.
official, productive, useful. You know, frankly, for us, helps us learn a little bit. We get to hang out with each other, which we love doing, and then, you know, hopefully, any listeners out there gain some insight from us, and we can help you maybe, you know, win your leagues and learn something new. So, with that being said, I think we should talk about what this podcast is, kind of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. So, I think, you know, kind of the format we're going to go with is we're going to start off, we're going to give you just something really random about soccer news in the world, just something fun, kind of get the conversation started. And then we're going to go down to EPL News and Notes. We'll hop down to our Fantasy Roundtable. This is kind of our bread and butter. That's why we're here. And then we'll end with a fun section that we'll talk about at the end. So that's kind of what we're going to do. Now, introductions. It's our first time doing this.
Most important part.
Most important part, that people don't know us, right? So we'll do just quick introductions. It's a one-time thing. You can get to know us. Dave, let the people know anything, what you had for breakfast, what your favorite club is, how you're feeling, whatever you want to say, man.
I bet Dave doesn't eat breakfast.
Dave's a thin guy, so he probably only eats one meal a day.
Do you eat breakfast?
Dave does eat breakfast.
You eat breakfast.
That's actually my favorite meal of the day.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
But yeah, I'm Dave Farina. I'm born and bred and raised here in Pittsburgh. And we mentioned at the start of this show that I had some minor, small complaints. And those minor, small complaints are because I'm a fan of who some may view as the worst team in the world, Manchester United. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you probably know they had a rough weekend. But like Sean said, hopefully I can help teach you some things. If you take a little bit of knowledge from us, then we've succeeded, and maybe you'll be a little bit entertained in the meantime too. So
absolutely love it, Dave. Phil, take it away, man. Same thing. Let the people know why you're here. How you feeling?
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Dave. I'm Phil Charnley. I grew up in Spain, as we alluded to before, but I've been living in Pittsburgh for the last 10 years. And unlike Dave, I'm fortunate enough to root for probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest team in the history of football, Real Madrid. I'm not a bandwagon fan, just throwing it out there early on. It was the first team I saw play in Spain. My dad took me to a game. So, I've been a fan since I was 4 or 5 years old. And just hoping you guys can learn some things from us. We can learn from you because obviously we're new. We're new to all of this, so just excited to talk about something we all love, which is soccer / football.
Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, I'll go next. I'll kind of riff off a little bit of what Dave and Phil said. My name is Sean Feely. Just like Dave, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Been playing the sport of soccer since I was 6 years old, watching it since around 10 years old. And, I'm really passionate about it. I think we all are. And I'm really excited that we're going to have an opportunity to, like Phil just said, maybe teach you guys something that you may not already know, and vice versa. As we maybe grow a little bit and we start interacting with listeners, that we can learn something from all of you out there. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. My favorite club, and I'm basically going to sound like exactly what Phil just said, is Bayer Leverkusen. And put the pitchforks away. I'm not a bandwagon fan.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
He's
I'm not.
legit.
I've been a Leverkusen fan since before people knew who Leverkusen was.
Exactly. Thank you.
I'll give you
Thank you. Yes. And
Fun fact: Madrid beat Leverkusen in a Champions League
that's
final.
exactly where I was going, and I
Yeah.
hate you for that.
Yeah, that
I
was
hate you for
fun.
that. That's the first time I started watching soccer. Really was in that. I think it was 2002 season. I was 10 years old. I was watching it with my dad, who, one of the reasons that I even found out about Leverkusen and kind of continued following them is he works for the parent company of the club, Bayer Pharmaceuticals, for, I want to say 20 years. So, I had that connection that time, just kind of like seeing him wear the symbol on his chest, obviously for the company, not for the team, but same symbol, and follow him a lot through high school. Got really big into soccer in general in college. Started watching a lot more and fell in love with them. And I think all of us can say that FIFA plays a big part in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was my team in
Sure
FIFA. Always played with them. And then last year was obviously amazing to watch. I'll probably never get that opportunity again. So I enjoyed every second of that season. It's already starting off not so hot, but that's okay because Dave's here, so we can be in pain together while Phil's team wins another Champions League.
No, Madrid has some issues this year. We'll get into that.
They
at
always
some
have
point,
some
but
issues.
They do, and then they win.
And then they win. All right, so that's good. Introduction's done. I think it's a perfect time to just start and dive right in the first topic we have. So first thing we're going to talk about, I mentioned it, is just kind of a world news fact. It's not going to be specific to EPL. It's not going to be specific to fantasy. The example I have today that we're going to talk about just really briefly is, as I was scrolling through Instagram a couple days ago, I came across a post about Ronaldo, who's one of Phil's favorite players in the world. You're going to know that very soon. You're going to hear it often.
Unbiased Ronaldo, so much better than Messi.
So this man started a YouTube channel very recently, and somehow he has gone on to amass tens of millions of subscribers, and he's only posted like 5 videos. And frankly, they're not that exciting. It's not like a Mr. Beast video.
Is that the chat with like Ferdinand?
That's one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's like not that exciting. So I don't know how he did that. I think it goes to show his popularity.
Yeah, of course.
How he's able to just, frankly, captivate the population, because I think what I read was he's now 4 million subscribers behind Taylor Swift. And he's already says he's shooting for Mr. Beast, and in a month to have, 53 million subscribers. It's just absurd.
That's ridiculous.
If you're near Taylor Swift in anything,
Yeah.
earnings, social media related, you're probably doing something right. Or you did something right a long time ago, Phil.
Yeah. And she is the queen of pop.
She is the queen. I mean, think about that. She is literally, I gotta think she's the most popular human on Earth right now, one of, and he is probably more popular than her. I think I would guess he's probably more popular than her. It's just the man's wild. I mean, you don't even see him play anymore. He plays in like an unknown league that no one ever watches.
Yeah.
His desire to want to be the number one at anything is ridiculous. And we all saw it in soccer, obviously, when he played for, his entire career. And now we're seeing it in social media, I'm sure. down the road it's going to be something else.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah,
He's
he's
gonna
going
be
to start
Call of
being a
Duty pro.
streamer.
He's gonna be the best.
But yeah, I think it's just ridiculous. It's crazy what that man has done and will continue to do.
All right, so that was just a quick example of what we're gonna do. It's kind of an icebreaker each show. We're just gonna like you heard, pretty random topics, semi-related to soccer. That's just how we're gonna do it. Now we're gonna go to our next section, and that is gonna be our EPL News and Notes section. Now, the reason we have an EPL section specifically, I don't know if we mentioned this before, but this podcast is going to be directly related to Fantasy Premier League, FPL. If you've never heard of that, you can kind of think of it, as fantasy football here in America or fantasy basketball. Now, the way it's set up, the points, it's very different, but it is the English Premier League's version of a fantasy sport. So that's going to be what we do. That's going to be our biggest section of this podcast all the time, is just talking about who we like, who we don't like, who's coming in, who's coming out, et cetera, et cetera. So for EPL News, I'm going to pass that one off to Phil. I'm going to let him just kind of explain what we're going to be talking about for this first time, and then we're just going to dive right in. Take it away, Phil.
Thank you, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
So for this section, I think our main focus week to week is just going to give you guys a recap, give you some news on trades, injuries, any rumors going around, and then just a quick breakdown of all the games, all the fixtures, anything that stood out, anything that we just want to talk about around the game. So let's just go through the games that happened this weekend real quick. I can go through the scores. If anyone wants to touch on any of them, let's do that. So first one, Arsenal 1, Brighton 1. I do think, and I'm going to call him myself, I think this is an interesting one because Brighton already was kind of a dark horse last year. I think Arsenal would have won it easy without that red card. So
Yeah, that red card was awful.
yeah,
that as much as I like to see Declan Rice and Arsenal struggle and fail. Yeah, that was that happens so many times per game, and to give somebody a second yellow card for that is that's like nitpicking to the highest degree.
It's a perfect example of a ref just losing control of the game. The second you give that card out, now you just basically put yourself in a box to say, well, gotta give a card out for every time someone stands in front of the ball. Like, it's just makes me mad, and not only because I have 3 Arsenal players on my team, and that really screwed me, but I mean, Phil, we talk about it all the time, and when the ref starts to control the outcome of a game, I just, like, come on. And no, like you said, no discredit to Brighton here. They're looking really good, so maybe they still tie that game, but I don't know, man.
yeah. Do you think both teams are happy with that draw, given the circumstances?
No, I mean, well, once you get a red card, Arsenal's probably happy, but beforehand, absolutely not.
Right.
I mean, I think I didn't see exactly what he said, but I think the coach came out and he was not very happy about that one. So I gotta think they're not super happy about that. No.
All right, moving on. We have Brentford 3, Southampton 1, a wild 1, Everton 2, Bournemouth 3.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that one. I mean, that's just. I was watching that game. I think I was texting you. I was texting both of you, but Everton stinks. We all know that. They've been bad for. I wish they would just get taken down to the championship, but you're up 2-0 with 9 minutes left. The absolute collapse at home, and it's just like not surprising. I guess they're just not a good team. And again, maybe I'm biased again because I played Pickford, but
Oh, you actually played him?
I played him, and that was my mistake. I mean, 9 minutes left. He's on pace for a shutout.
Yeah.
And then he just collapses. I don't know what you guys think. I thought it was embarrassing, frankly.
Yeah, I mean they looked pretty good for a large chunk of that game, and then all of a sudden, after that first goal went in, I would guess if you're an Everton fan, you're just like, oh, here we go again. Like, you're hoping that's not the case. And yeah, after that first goal, it was like you sort of felt it was coming, and they couldn't stop that snowball from rolling downhill.
It's like that. Do you know that meme with the GTA character or that GIF? It's like, oh boy, here we go again.
Oh boy,
I feel like you could apply that one.
It's the guy walking down the alley.
Yeah, with like,
What I'm talking about.
This one isn't even like, it's not like they're playing against Man City. They're playing against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one made me pretty mad. We know a couple of Everton fans who I'm sure are just Had a fun weekend, I'm sure.
Just like Dave.
All right.
Yeah.
Ipswich won, Fulham won.
Only thing
Like-
there is Anthony Robinson's amazing. So that's all I got there.
Yeah.
I'm a U.S. men's national team fan, and
Oh, we'll
Anthony
get-
Robinson looks like a stud. So
We'll get to him.
We'll
Yep,
get there.
that's all I got.
Big fantasy moves with him. We have Leicester 1, Villa 2, Forest 1, Wolves 1, West Ham 1, City 3. I think that one is just classic City, classic Holland. I want to touch on this one. I think last year, almost like a wake-up call for City and Holland, and I think they're just going to steamroll this year. And one thing Guardiola does really well is he instills this desire to want more and more. And City, I don't think they're going to relax at all this season, and they're just going to steamroll.
I agree, and I think, frankly, this is a season they probably can't relax. Arsenal was good last year, and Arsenal's better this year. So, I mean, if they do relax, they're going to have a team right behind them.
Yeah, and as you'll hear in some of my thoughts and analysis in our next segment, I'm really high on Liverpool this year. I mean, these first 3 games under Slot, I don't think could have looked much better.
No.
And some of the adjustments he's made to how they play, I really like. But yeah, I also unfortunately agree with you, Phil, that I get that vibe from Man City so far.
Yeah.
It's just when you have a guy that can score so many goals. I think that's Arsenal's and Liverpool's downfall right now. They don't have the guy that even when you're playing bad can get you 3 goals or 2 goals each game.
Yeah, I mean, while Havertz has been good so far, they kind of still lack that center forward. I don't know if Gabriel Jesus is really the answer if
not
he's
really playing.
ever on the field.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a hot take here, but for as much as people say the Bundesliga is not fun to watch because, Bayern Munich just dominates every single year, it's a little more competitive in the EPL, but I mean, City just, it's if you look at it, it's kind of the same situation. You just know what you're going to get every year. So, yeah.
So to finish off the Sunday games, Chelsea won, Palace won. Quick note on Chelsea, I just think they're a wild card. I have no idea what they're going to do each weekend. Newcastle 2, Spurs 1. That was a game I saw. I thought Spurs looked great, but Newcastle got the win.
Isak.
Any thoughts on that one, Dave, Sean?
yeah, that's kind of a classic Newcastle game to me. Like they never really look great. They just kind of make things difficult on you for 90 whole minutes. And I agree. I thought Spurs played pretty well, but just one of those frustrating ones.
Yeah, you're a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
And then the big one, United 0, Liverpool 3. I'm not going to say a word.
Nope.
Let's let Dave take us home with this one.
Dave, take a minute, take 2 minutes, man. Let us know what happened.
I can't bring an adult beverage in
I might.
for this one.
We'll see how this goes, but it's a shame because the first half an hour or so of that game before Liverpool scored, I was texting, you guys, one of our other friends who's a United fan with me. It looked all right. It was pretty decent first half an hour, and then they decided to keep giving the ball to Casemiro for some reason, and I could spend probably 40 minutes on just him, but both of those goals just direct result of him passing the ball straight to the other team and getting caught in possession, which are 2 of the things he loves to do nowadays. So Manuel Ugarte better be ready after the international break. Is all I'm saying.
That's exciting.
It is. He's going to play whether he's ready or not because he kind of just has to. But the other thing with United is I thought going forward they looked okay. They had some chances. They continue to make the wrong decision or just execute terribly when they get anywhere near the 18-yard box. But it's just kind of like the same thing as last year with them. Once one bad thing happens, they really don't rebound when things go wrong in a game. And I thought the second half wasn't very good from them. After that second goal went in, the team just kind of looked deflated. And then, yeah, you kind of knew what was coming. I was surprised. It probably should have been worse than 3-0, to be honest. But yeah, if I would be okay with this game if they would have at least gotten that draw against Brighton. But that goes along with what I just said, that they give up late goals. They can't seem to get through the crucial moments without something going wrong, and that's reared its head now. A couple times already. We've only played 3 games.
Yeah, I don't want to stay on the point too long, but how much longer can Ten Hag stay there? I just like he's not. What has he done to really deserve the leash?
I don't think they. I don't think they would have gone through the whole offseason and it was a pretty long decision making process and then decided to stick with him and then just fire him after 3 games or after the first month or something like that. I think they're going to give him a while. I'm just totally making this up, but if the performances don't start to improve, I could see him going around the holidays. Sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas if they keep looking like they looked last year.
Yeah.
What have you got to lose at that point? But I think they're going to give him a little bit of a leash. There's some They have some injuries at crucial spots with Shaw, who always seems to be hurt. And let's see how they look with Ugarte in there, and once they get Hoyland back healthy. So, but the performances need to get better, or else his seat's just going to keep getting hotter.
Yeah, I think my question for them is really, at what point is it more than just the coaches or players? Because we're looking at 4 or 5 years now where it's, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And you get glimpses of it, and then it doesn't happen. So is it more than just that? Is it how it's run?
Well, yeah.
Could be a
People
culture
higher up.
thing, man.
That's
Culture thing.
definitely an
It's
issue. Obviously the ownership has been well documented and
Yeah.
how not great they are.
It's
but
the Tampa Bay owners, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers owners.
yes, the
Yeah,
Glazers.
the Glazers. That's it. Yeah.
What was I going to say there? I like what they've done from that perspective. I like what Ineos has done in the transfer market. They are much more efficient doing business. It's because in the past, every single negotiation, whether it's incoming or outgoing, would seemingly take months.
Yeah.
So I like what they've done off the pitch, but on it, they've still got work to do. So no change from last year as far as what happens on the field so far. And that does pain me. So
Yeah, that sucks.
those are my thoughts. So I'll stop talking about them for now.
No, I'm sure we'll talk more about United as the season goes on. We could spend hours talking about their struggles over the last 5 years, but yeah. So I think that wraps up the weekend games. I guess not weekend anymore, right? Because we have
Last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's crazy because like with
Game
Liga in
week.
Spain, they play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's just getting crazy.
Yeah, it's like the NFL. It's the more money you can make, the more people put your games on.
More football all the time.
Yeah.
People watch it.
Football is life.
Football is life.
But to kind of wrap up this section, any trades, injuries, rumors?
I got a point here. I know, we talked about Declan Rice. We don't need to touch on that too much, but obviously that red card, that's a big deal. He's out next week. So, but the big trade that I'm talking about, I think I mentioned it to Dave, and I know he has his own opinion. I have mine on this, but Sterling joining Arsenal.
Yeah.
To me, I know that some people may say, "Oh, it's just the depth piece." Like it's not a big deal. But when we look at it through the landscape of fantasy, you start to say, "Okay, well, who's going to get negatively affected on this?" Right? We got Havertz, Saka, Martinelli, right? Even you could put Odegaard in there. I know just the way that they may mix it up. And yes, maybe he's not just going to come in and start for someone. I don't think that's the case. He's not better than those players, but he still has. I'm sure he's still a pretty good player, and he's a veteran. You start thinking about Champions League's going to come up. Okay, are they going to say, yeah, let's rest Kai for this one? We got a guy on the bench that'll take the minutes. Or are we going to start seeing a situation, Martinelli's looking tired at minute 62. We got Sterling on the bench to throw him in. Like, what do you guys think? Like, who do you think is really going to be most negatively affected fantasy Premier League wise?
Yeah, I think you're correct. I do think it is like a depth transfer for them. I think they just took advantage of Chelsea wanting to offload somebody since Chelsea has a zillion players, and very glad Sterling didn't go to United. But I think it may cut into Martinelli or Saka's minutes towards the end of games in the Premier League. I don't see them as signing Sterling to replace Martinelli, or obviously not Saka. I think they want some. They are going to try to challenge for the title. Obviously, they're the Champions League, the domestic cup, so they just need like quality bodies, in my opinion. They kind of have their super sub off the bench with Trossard. He's been really good for them. So not that I don't know if a ton of people are really using Trossard in fantasy, but
Yeah.
I mean, he could steal some minutes from him. At times where you might see Martin or Saka play 90. Sterling might give them a spell for 15 or 20 minutes at the end of the game, but I don't.
Yeah.
He's not really somebody I'm paying attention to yet, and obviously if there's injuries, it's a super long season, so that he could become more relevant. But I do think it's more of a depth thing, and
I agree with that one. I don't think it's a move for fantasy. I think it's just there's so many games now.
Yeah.
You see last 2 seasons, Arsenal just can't keep up with the pace. When City does have multiple of those super subs, so getting that quality player, to steal your word there, Dave, that quality player, that guy that can be a game changer when Arsenal needs it, I think that's what they're looking for with him. He's fast, he's quick, he can change a game in the blink of an eye. So
Yeah, I completely agree. I think all that's good. The other one, I don't want to steal the talking, but the only other one that I kind of saw, and this we don't have to go in depth on this one. This one has really no effect on Fantasy Premier League, but thought it was interesting to see Chelsea go and get Sancho. I know, Dave, you have your opinions, but I mean, one, I don't know his exact age, but he's young still. He was very cheap, and yes, his minutes, goals, assists, pretty much everything relevant has gone down in the last 5 years. But who's to say that a young guy, if he gets back in a rhythm, doesn't then become a pretty good piece for Chelsea? I mean, I don't know if you guys think there's any chance he could be a serious piece for Chelsea.
he could. I'm not going to say it's zero, but he's talented. He's obviously talented.
What percentage? Give it out of 100%. What percentage do you think he becomes a relevant player for Chelsea this season?
Like for fantasy purposes?
No, just real life.
Just for Chelsea?
Yeah, he's not going to be a fantasy option, I don't think at all.
I think he'll be relevant at some point. Like I think he'll get used as a substitute, but like him becoming a fixture in their starting 11, 10%. I don't.
know you.
He also plays the same position that like a lot of their talented players play
Absolutely,
already.
he does.
So like
Pedro Neto, João Felix, yeah.
His name has escaped me that scored a hat trick.
Duque?
Duque,
Yeah.
Mudryk, they all play the same spot.
Yeah.
So is he going to get minutes over those guys?
Probably not.
But anyway,
That's fair.
what were you going to say, Phil?
I just don't see Sancho being the player that everyone expected him to be again. He almost reminds me of a late Sturridge, maybe where Sterling is now, where you have these peaks and you think they're going to be that next superstar, and now they're just going to bounce team for team, and they're going to have moments of brilliance because they're obviously great players, but becoming that consistent superstar, I just don't think so. So
He used to be worth, I think it was $80 million.
yeah,
Someone tried signing you for $80
I mean
million,
he
didn't they?
tore apart PSG last Champions League.
Last year?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
with Dortmund.
$80 million is a lot of money.
He did.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
He tears one team up for
And
one
then he's
game, and
just
then
terrible.
where is he the next game, right? So
I get that.
there's a lot of players like that nowadays.
All right.
Do you guys have any thoughts on Chiesa? Guess a similar
I've
question.
kinda
Chiesa
forgot
to
about him.
Liverpool. Same question as the last two guys we talked
Yeah,
about.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know too much about Liverpool's lineup right now. I don't really have much of an opinion on it. He's a good player. I think he was not fitting in Juventus anymore, so maybe a change of pace is going to help him out. But
I think it's going to be weird how that affects the likes of Luis Diaz and
Salah.
but
I've been on fire though.
yeah,
Is he really going to be able to cut into one of the best Premier League players' time?
and Jota, like what does that mean for them?
I don't think in important moments, I don't think he's taking Salah's place, but I think he's a natural right-sided player, and they didn't have a ton of those behind Salah.
Well, what's interesting about that, Salah, I think he already said he's like, I'm either
Last
plan on coming back or his last year. So, I mean,
Yes.
that's a perfect replacement. Fair enough. Maybe they do at the end of the season start to say, let's squeeze him in. He's going to be our guy next year. So, yeah, fair point. Can't argue with that. All right. So,
Last one, real quick.
yeah, go for it.
Van de Ven for Tottenham. We don't need to touch on it. I think his injury until September is
say that.
massive.
You did
I
say
think
that.
he's a stud. He's really good. And you could tell against Newcastle that they didn't have him,
Yeah.
especially with his speed.
Hopefully the international break does him some good.
Yeah. But back to you,
All
Sean.
right. Yeah. No, that was great. That was great. So that was our EPL news, right? Every week we're gonna come talk about games again that we thought were interesting. We'll do a little trade stuff. Phil will do a little injury stuff. We'll talk about all of it. It'll change up as we go. We're very fluid here, right? We're brand new to podcasting, so this framework is just a work in progress for us right now.
Who was that famous guy who said like be water?
Be water?
Yeah, be water.
I don't know.
It was like a
Bruce
karate. Was it Bruce Lee? Yeah.
Bruce Lee?
Pray that I'm right.
Be water. Oh,
Be water. Yeah, because we're fluid.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
You're right.
Hey, look that up. We have computers. Someone
Yeah.
look that up. What are
I
we
got
doing?
you. Let's Google this.
And while you're doing that,
Yeah.
I'm going to tee Dave up for the next section. We're going to go into our fantasy roundtable. Now,
Bruce Lee.
Bruce
Be
Lee.
water, my friend.
Did you say Bruce Lee?
That's
sure did.
that's
Why
a
do you
point for
know
Dave.
that? I don't know
It
why
is
you
one of
know
the
that.
most famous things.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never heard it, so apparently I'm just not on top of my martial arts game. Yeah, so Dave, we're going to...
Go hard.
That's what Bruce Lee, martial
You
arts.
moron.
You're a moron. So, roundtable. Dave, we're jumping in. Roundtable, for everyone listening, this is this is the real reason that we're here, right? Outside of the fact that we just love this sport, we're here to give you as much, analysis, statistics, our maybe not expert opinion yet, but as we go forward, we're going to try and become experts in this space, and we're going to give you our opinions on what you should do the upcoming week, maybe who you should target, who you shouldn't target. I know I've said this multiple times, so you probably know what we're talking about. So Dave, with that being said, kind of let everyone know, what we're going to talk about, and then take it away.
So in this section, we'll do a couple things. Like Sean said, we want to give you some fantasy insights that might actually be useful. The three of us are in our own little mini league competing against each other for an undetermined prize as of now.
We'll figure it out, don't you
We'll
worry.
figure out what that is. So we'll talk about our teams briefly, and that will kind of segue into us talking about some of our recommendations. Guys we like a little bit more after this past week's games, guys that we feel are a bit downgraded after the action. So if we want to start talking about our own teams just very briefly, I don't know if we want to go through our entire teams at this very moment, but I will say that Sean did have the best week.
Bang!
Three of us.
Absolutely. And just so everyone knows, I played 2 defenders because I'm dumb that didn't play this week, and I still beat these 2. So.
Well, yeah, because they got swapped out for players on your bench.
You're
You got
right. I
points
keep
for
forgetting
that.
that's what happened. Yep.
See, this is the problem.
We're learning.
To
We're learning.
anyone listening, this is the problem. Sean wants us to make us feel bad, and he keeps rubbing it in our faces. So Dave and I are coming after him next week.
Please do. I just, I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go. And I just want to mention one thing, by the way. So we're doing our own league, like Dave mentioned. In the future, our real hope is that we can gain enough listeners that we can start doing some listener leagues, right?
Absolutely.
Doing us 3,
Yeah.
getting people who are listening involved. It's a great way for us to meet you, talk to you, and just, again, have some fun. So just wanted to say that, but yeah, we can keep going. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say who you used to beat us, Sean.
yes. Please do.
Mr. Lewis for Man City.
Mr. Lewis.
Nico Lewis was very,
Absolutely.
very good for you. He's been really good so far in general. You rolled with Eze and Palmer in the midfield, 10 and 12 respectively there, and then Havertz and Isak up front, 8 and 9 from both of them. I also used Havertz and Isak up front. Phil, let's take a look at you.
We don't want to look at my team.
And then after we look at Phil's, I think we might as well just start with Isak. I think we all have some pretty strong opinions on what to do with him going forward.
Right. Phil, I'm looking for highlights on your team.
Oh, really?
You have Mo Salah.
Yeah.
Who
That's neat.
I
You
just
know,
wanna
you know
point out,
plenty about him this last weekend.
accounted for nearly half of your points.
How many points? I'm not looking at
He
it.
had 17, so if you're
Yeah.
all you at-home mathematicians can figure out loosely how many points.
So, but here's the thing, Dave. Pedro Porro and Son could have each had 2 goals and 2 assists each, and they just couldn't put it in.
I
So
saw.
I actually had a brilliant squad, and they didn't perform
kind of
for me.
Part of
so
the game.
that's on them, right?
Well, I mean, that's kind of part of the game to pick the guys
And
who do perform.
If I captained Salah, I beat you guys. So,
But you didn't.
yeah, I did a bad job. That doesn't mean I picked a bad team.
No, I mean,
No, I'm fair. I mean, okay, whatever.
I'm kidding.
no, you picked it back.
I put up 37
Less-
points. That was pathetic.
If Declan Rice doesn't decide to be an annoyance for 25 seconds,
That's
Odegaard
true.
and Gabriel, I got them both in the field. They're both useless because Arsenal immediately went to the weirdest formation.
That's a fair point.
I had Odegaard as well, so
Yeah,
But,
became useless.
but yeah, like you said, Sean, I think we have some opinions on Alexander Isak.
It's a big one.
So he's actually the most transferred out player
Yep.
across FPL after this week. And I know we all have some thoughts on him. So whichever one of you wants
Big
to
time.
share your thoughts first.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go because I think I'm probably the outsider on this one. Like you said, Dave, he is by far the most traded out player this week. And generally, people are trading him out for João Pedro, who's been great, much cheaper. I think he's at 5.5 million. Isak, I don't have it directly in front of me. I think he is around 8.5. Yeah, so you make that trade, you make that transfer, you immediately gain 3 million. That's fair. I would never discredit anyone who's making that move, but I mean, 8.5 is a lot. I mean, but when I look at him, like, he looks good to me, right? He had 9 points this week. 9 points is nothing to laugh at, it's not to scoff at, I mean, but I'm keeping him. I'm not interested in getting rid of him like most people seem to be. I want to keep him. I know he's expensive, but I think he's done very well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think people are transferring him out for a number of reasons. I think a lot of people are trying to make room for Erling Haaland. You didn't pick him.
That's a really good point.
And so, or on the same note, just trying to free up some money to address other areas of their team. A lot of people, like we said, João Pedro is, I think, the most transferred in player. People are seeing that and saying, "Oh, I can save a few million, use that in other places in my squad." So I think that's a lot of why he's getting transferred out. But
who does Pedro play this week? Who do they play?
Brighton.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't. We're still maybe out on Brighton a bit. Oh, you said he plays.
I think they play Wolves.
No, because
They play Ipswich.
Okay, that's fair then. I was going to Isak plays Wolves, which that's a great matchup. I'm leaving him in.
It's Isak.
But Pedro, that's a good matchup too. So I was going to say, is the matchup there for Pedro versus Isak? It's pretty even, to be honest.
It is, but if you spent the money on him, and I can't criticize people for wanting to free up money for Haaland or pivoting to somebody in the same price range, like somebody like Havertz. I'm just not going to do it.
Nope.
I think his XFPL numbers compare really well to other people that are getting transferred in. Like we mentioned, Pedro, Danny Welbeck, Nico Jackson, who's in like the same price point as him. So he's had seven shots on goal inside the box, 19 touches inside the box, which is the same numbers as Havertz, who I don't think anybody's really moving on from
No one's touching
just
numbers.
yet. So, and he's got good matchups, like you said. So I'm holding him. I don't really see much of an issue.
I think I'm the dumb one who didn't even add him on my team. So obviously put up 37 points. I don't have many good players outside of Salah. I'm taking this directly from the guys announcing the game over the weekend, but it just feels like Newcastle doesn't have the same energy as previous years.
I agree.
There's some turmoil going on.
And I love Isak. He used to play for Real Sociedad in La Liga, so watched him a lot there. He reminds me, obviously not the same level, but of that Henry type of player. He's elegant, he's tall, he has the speed, and he also has the quickness, the quick feet, good in front of the goal. But I just don't see Newcastle being this scoring powerhouse, at least for now. Could be completely wrong if things start clicking. So I think Dave said it. Nico Jackson on Chelsea. He's someone I'm high on because, again, I don't think Chelsea's going to win much, but their offense can go nuts sometimes, and I think he's going to have a similar output in terms of goals as Isak. And that sounds crazy right now, but I'm pretty high on Jackson.
Did you transfer that? You didn't transfer that, did you? Did you use your transfer on that?
No, so yeah, listeners, hear me out.
You told me this. Listen to this.
37 points. I obviously need to make some changes, use my wild card, and got a new squad. Got a new squad.
Going into week 4.
Did you use the big wild card or the free hit?
No, the big wild card.
You went all in.
All right.
And the reason I used it is because I was looking at stats, and I know I'm kind of derailing this, but
No, go for it.
I didn't want to pick Haaland.
Right?
This is
for
an
whatever
easy
reason,
one.
you do not like him and you do not want him.
Well, I have him now.
Okay,
But
just kidding.
66% of the teams have Haaland drafted.
Yeah.
Almost 90% of the teams in the top 1,000 have Haaland.
Yeah.
So
We've had such a small sample size so far that, when you have a guy that has 7 goals in 3 games,
and I just think it's going to keep going, and he's the outlier of any forward this year.
probably.
So it's just hard not to go with him. So I'm riding with Jackson and Haaland up top, and
I love that.
probably going to beat you guys.
Yeah,
I can't
Oh,
say I disagree with you.
going back to the ESOC point, I mentioned that Newcastle not in shambles, but there seems to be some interesting things happening in the background. So I had Trippier on my team. He was a guy that I don't know. I like Trippier. I think he's always been good for England. He's always there. Maybe I put too much stock in veterans, but he hasn't played, right? And I wondered to myself, why is that happening? Turns out he may have requested for a trade. Now it's up in the air. Is he staying? Is he going? Nobody knows. And I said to myself, for whatever reason, he was still at around 5.8 million, his worth. It hadn't changed yet. So I transferred him out. I had 0.3 left. I brought in Robertson for 6 million, which I just surprised that Trippier was still that expensive, and maybe I'll go on to regret that. But when I looked at his predictions for the next 5 game weeks, he's projected 2.3 points. Robertson's projected 20.8. So for me, again, anything could change. Who knows? Maybe he comes out next week. Now he's part of the team. Now they're doing well again. But I just felt like I can't wait any longer. I had 2 defenders who just weren't really getting minutes. I needed to replace them with someone a little better. So that was my big target this week. More of a out target. I wanted to get rid of Trippier. So I just think it's up in the air. If anyone has him, there's really no reason to hold on to him right now.
I do want to, since we started with forwards, just touch on a couple other guys real quick. And if you guys have any thoughts, please chime in. A couple of the guys that have been good that are sort of less expensive players. Wisa and Chris Wood. Both of them have been very good so far. I've seen them getting transferred in and out. They're both kind of in the same boat for me. Chris Wood and Forrest play Liverpool next. Wisa plays Man City. They're both matchups where you don't really expect either of their teams to have the ball a whole lot. So they're definitely not guys I'm going to be starting next week. The other guy I just wanted to touch on was Ollie Watkins, since he's kind of in the same boat as Isak. He's at a similar price point. He had a pretty bad first game, but the last 2 games, his underlying numbers have been really, really good. I was going to ask you guys a trivia question, but you're going to know the answer now. He is the highest expected goals of any forward in the Premier League over the last 2 games, other than Erling Haaland. He's the highest one.
1.66. That's wild.
He's the highest one. And he has some bad optics because, he's been subbed off in all 3 games, which I think is a little bit due to him playing in Euros and maybe not being quite back up to speed. John Duran comes in and scores twice. So it kind of looks bad for him. But he's sort of, I'm holding him as well. Again, I'm not going to stop you from transferring him out if you want to bring in João Pedro and save some money, upgrade other areas. But he's a proven scorer. He's had 4 big chances so far. He just hasn't put the ball in the net. And he has an excellent schedule coming up with Everton, Wolves, and Ipswich. And I don't know if you guys have watched Everton and Wolves.
Unfortunately.
But the 3 of us, one of us could probably score against them. So for me, I said I have Ollie Watkins. So part of the reason I'm bringing him up, I'm also going to hold him. I think that one may work itself out.
I'm sure you saw he's second most traded out this week, which is interesting. I'm surprised on that.
Yeah,
but that makes sense why you're calling it. Yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on Welbeck?
Danny.
He's in Brighton. He's on Brighton, and he's going to play a lot. He's a pretty decent cheap option. I played for Man United for a long time, so Danny Welbeck hasn't always been the best guy at actually putting the ball in the net. But Brighton plays a pretty attractive brand of football, so he can be useful to me if he's your third forward.
5.7 million.
I'm targeting his teammate and one of his other teammates, who I'll get to, over him. But he's not a bad option. He's not for me personally, he's not somebody I'm going after.
So, I mean, my thing with him is, yes, he's kind of doing really well. I think 5.7 is kind of expensive still. The big thing I look at is he has 2 goals. He has 3 shots on target.
Yep.
You're never going to, I mean, let's just call it impossible because that's probably what it is to keep that kind of, shot to goal percentage going. He only has 6 shots overall, which frankly isn't that many for a guy that you're just going to go get this. I think for me, I'll keep an eye on him. I'll mark him. I'll give it a couple weeks, see what happens. I don't think he can keep that pace up.
Yeah. So we did forwards, so I want to move on to midfielders, and I kind of want to hear the same thing of who are guys that you're looking at that you like more than last week, guys you're downgrading. I have some thoughts, but whichever one of you wants to go first.
Let's take a look what we got here. You go for it. You go, Phil.
No, I was gonna. Do you know when Chiesa supposed to start playing?
Who?
Chiesa for Liverpool.
No, I do not.
I just think Diego Jota.
Let me look it up. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
I would assume he'd be involved after the international break.
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned Liverpool, I want to mention, since we're on midfielders and guys I'm targeting, my simple answer here is any midfielder that plays for Liverpool.
Yeah.
I mentioned Slot's system earlier. I mean, last year could be an up and down team at times with how they played. Slot seems like they control the ball more. They just in general control the game. They've looked in total control in all 3 games. They're all involved, whether it's Luis Diaz, Jota, Szoboszlai, McAllister. They all touch the ball near the box. They're on the ball the whole game. So any of them at their prices, I am pretty much in on. I like Jota because I think he is going to be the first choice center forward for a while because I think he connects his teammates better. He fits into the Slot system better than Nunez, who kind of can be a wild card.
Yeah.
Even though he's a fun to watch wild card.
He gets so many chances and just whips them all over the field.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen when he gets the ball on the 18. But
Yeah.
Cody Gakpo, I don't really know what his best position is. Any of the Liverpool midfielders, if you have somebody that's underperformed that you're looking to get rid of, to me they're all really good options.
Yeah, and just on that Chiesa point, I mean, I searched. It appeared he was supposed to actually start for Liverpool this past week. He didn't even make the bench, so I don't know what's going on there. I can't really
Maybe
find
they're
anything
just
relevant.
waiting.
There might be. It could be, still the looking at his health or whatever those tests are that you do when you come in. But
Yeah.
nothing I see at the moment. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure if he gets called to start, we're going to hear about it. It's going to be a big news article. So keep eyes on that. On the midfielders, yeah, I don't really have too much on the midfield. The one guy that I don't know if I'd call it concerned, but I mean I have Son, and the only reason I'm semi-concerned is because his price tag is so massive. And like we said, Tottenham looked okay. I don't know. To me, it just didn't look like he was as. I mean, and again, I'd say this one game. I think the game before, what did he have? Like, I don't even remember off the top of my
He
head.
had 2 goals against Everton. Right?
Yeah, he had a game very recently where he just kind of popped off. So maybe I'm overthinking it. Yeah, he had 16 points against Everton. Granted, Everton's probably the worst team in the EPL. Let's be honest about it. So like, you can't read too. I mean, it's a great game, but
that bad.
I mean, they've been in the bottom 5 for like 3 years. Not getting any better.
I think the thing about Son, and this is kind of me new to the EPL fantasy world, is that EPL fantasy really focuses on output and not those in between the line things. So Son does so many things so well, but he's never a guy that statistically pops out. He's never in the conversations for, the Ballon d'Or and like the goals. Obviously with Haaland, it's going to be impossible for anyone, but I just think he does a lot of things well. But that final output, I don't know if he's going to be consistent enough where 10 million is, or 10, not 10 million, 10 is worth.
I hear what you're saying. He does a lot of little things that aren't going to show up in fantasy for sure. He's one of those guys for me. I disagree with you a little bit, Phil, that eventually he's just going to get his because he is kind of their creator. sort of him and James Madison.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 17 goals and 10 assists last year. Now, since this is a very week-to-week game, and if you're somebody if you have a couple free transfers banked, they do play Arsenal next week. You do lose points since he's a midfielder if they give up goals to Arsenal. So if you didn't want to use him, if you're able to switch him out, if you're people using a free chip, perhaps that 10 million could be better spent for just this one game. But after that, he gets Brentford and United. So I hear you. He is expensive, and I'm sure there are people out there that again are trying to address some issues or
Yeah,
get Holland on their team. So I understand it. I also have Son on my team. I'm also not moving on from him.
We talk about Isak as too expensive, right? And then this guy's 10 million and he's produced. I know he's a midfielder, but I mean, again, we're learning the game as we go, right? We're not yet experts in FPL, but how much weight do you put into a midfielder? They get a better chance at assists, probably, but do you put 10 mil into a midfielder versus try and get that top tier striker?
Well,
like a Salah.
Well, yeah. From that perspective, yeah, I agree with you.
That's where I'm at with it. I'm not making any changes. I'm just thinking out loud. His price isn't going to go down. He's not going to have multiple stinkers in a row. And he had 3 points, right? That's not good, but at least what's that, 1 point, I guess? Because you get 1 for the playing, 1 for being over 60, and then I'm not sure what he got his last point for.
I think what I'm looking at is
the BPS.
BPS,
yeah.
Gotcha.
What I'm looking at is you can get Salah for, I think, 2 million more. So if you switch out Isak for Joao Pedro, for example, then you can
3 million
get Salah instead of Son, and Salah has 3 goals, 3 assists, right? And don't get me wrong, Son might be one of my favorite players of the last 5-6 years.
He's a Leverkusen guy. I love Son.
He's incredible.
That's why I love him.
He might not be fantasy incredible, and time will tell.
He brought Leverkusen up before they were good. So
That's very true.
So I love him. But yeah, Dave, let's go to strikers.
No, defenders.
Before we move on to defenders,
Right?
Oh, I went the wrong way. There we go.
This is the other reason we're embarrassed about losing to Sean.
Yeah. Listen, you don't have to be the smartest in the room to be the best at
You
something,
just have to be
okay?
lucky, right?
Donald Trump was the president of this country. You don't have to be the smartest to be the best at something.
Bringing in politics,
Hey, whether-
episode 1.
No. Whether you like him or don't like him, we can all be honest about it. Come on now.
The guy I wanted to mention, if I inject some sense back into this conversation, is another Brighton guy, is Matoma. And
Yeah.
I think he's their best player. And he hasn't been great so far. Again, as I mentioned, some of the underlying stats in the past with people, his expected goals, if you add together his expected goals and expected assists so far, he compares pretty favorably to Kevin De Bruyne, Jota, Saka, and better than Son and better than a couple other guys in his price range and cheaper that have been good so far, like Brian Mbuemo, Madueke, Eze. His expected goals and plus assists is better than those guys. And like we talked about, we like how Brighton plays, so he's super involved.
Yeah.
So he is one guy I like going forward too.
I'm a fan of his too. I think he has a lot of transfers in, right?
I didn't see him on the top of the list, so he might. But in my mind, it's more something for people in mini leagues looking for an advantage over your league mates.
Yeah.
All right, defenders. I will kick off this section, but then I'll pass it to you guys. I wanted to mention Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's the most expensive defender. He's been great so far, and it could have been even better because he had that goal overturned. So again, if you're somebody that's cutting costs somewhere and you have the some luxury money to add him, I think he's going to be worth it. I think he fits into their new system really well.
I think he gives you the attacking prowess that most defenders aren't going to give you. He's basically that classic wingback. He's going to attack. He's going to cross. It's similar to what we talked about with Anthony Robinson. Anthony Robinson is not as good, and he's not going to have many goal-scoring chances, but he's going to cross the ball, and he's going to cross it a lot. He's going to give you an opportunity for an assist. Trent's going to give you that plus a chance at a goal. So, I mean, I think he's worth it if, like you said, if you have the extra money to do it.
And if you don't, Anthony Robinson was who I was going to say.
Yeah.
You mentioned his assists.
Yeah.
He's third overall amongst defenders in expected assists so far. So if you're trying to save money, he's cheap. So another good option if you need to revamp your D.
For what he lacks in skill on the ball, he makes up for in just pure running straight to the corner and crossing, man. He does it for the U.S. men's national team. He does it for Fulham. He just gets to that corner and whips that ball in. So, I agree with you, Dave. I think that's I don't know. What is he? Before we close, 4.6. 4.6. That's not bad at all. So.
Just remind a few guys that I think on the defensive side are noteworthy. Obviously, we talked about Lewis. I mentioned Pedro Porro before for Tottenham. I think he's a stud. He's going to end up getting contributions. One guy, if you want really cheap, Lucas Digne.
I was going to say it too.
He has 2 assists, I think, in 3 games. He's always produced offensively. They have, pretty easy games.
Oh, they have a great
coming up.
They have a great schedule.
They have
Everton,
Fulham, Chelsea, and
Everton, Wolves, Ipswich. Yeah. As we mentioned,
Fulham.
No, for Digne.
For Digne.
Oh, my fault. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's Everton and Wolves at home.
Yeah.
And then Ipswich, and then United. So for United, depending on how United's doing, you might want to think about it. But I have him on my bench, ready to go last minute if I feel inspired.
He's one of the guys I'm trying to figure out a way to transfer in this week.
Yeah.
And Villa's always good.
So, we're going to wrap this section up. We're going to try and stay, on the best time we can. We don't want to talk too much. Frankly, we could talk forever about this kind of stuff. But I just want to go real quick around the table here. Just who are you going to captain this week? Who's your captain, your target? What do you got, Phil?
I mean, I'm going all in on Haaland, so got to go with him. But Salah's on the back of my mind, so both have super easy matchups. I think it's Brentford and Forest at home, both of them. So I think it's just either of them could pop off. So one of those two.
Dave, what are you doing?
Oh boy, I'm probably going to go with Havertz, especially if Van de Ven doesn't come back for Tottenham, because they're a lot better defensively with him. So it'll probably be Havertz. I haven't thought a ton about it since this is kind of a long week with the break. Him or Diogo Jota, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Jota's a good one.
Love that. I may just stick with who I went with last week, which, worked out not amazing, but pretty good. I guess that was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? It would have been against Wolves. Cole Palmer is who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. He had 17 points for me against Wolves. And his next game is against Bournemouth. I like that matchup. I think Cole Palmer is by far the best player on that team. I think he has all the opportunity in the world to get assists and goals constantly. So he's probably my number one choice. And then, I'll go back to him. I don't care what other people think. Isak's probably my second choice. He's going up against Wolves. I think he's good. I understand people are way down on him. He had 9 points against Tottenham. And we consider, I know we talked about the defense for Tottenham, but we consider them a pretty solid team. They're not a bad team. They're much better than Wolves. So Isak would be my second choice, but I'll probably just go with Palmer again. I'll ride that guy until he lets me down.
Palmer makes sense.
I think he's so good. I think he's just really good. So we will end the section there. That was good. First time going through the fantasy roundtable. Like we said, we'll try and do that every week. We'll come with relevant information for just Fantasy Premier League, but a lot of it will be related to our teams. We'll kind of riff off that, like you heard. So we will now move on to the final section.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, this is gonna be good. So,
this one's good.
So let me give you any of the listeners. Let me give you some background on this section. So us three, we went over to Dave's house a couple days ago with our wives, and we were having some adult beverages, and we were just saying, what can we do as a podcast to just be a little different, a little outside the box, not just do normal stuff? And our wives, geniuses, they came up with an idea, which we are conveniently calling Questions from Our Wives, where we are going to very original, but it's straight to the point. So every single week, one of us is going to have our wives write up a question, and that question is going to have to be related to soccer, but from their vantage point, right? So they'll write up a question, we'll get here to this point, and we'll open that question, and we'll hear it for the first time. We'll talk about it for, 5 minutes or so. As an example of a question you may get, Dave's wife Olivia was talking to us, and she said, "Hey, if Taylor Swift was to date an EPL player, who do you think she'd date?" And that spurred on a 10-minute conversation.
10 minutes is like an hour.
It was a long time, yeah. About something that, frankly, us three, I don't think have ever thought about in our entire lives. And we started going through photos of different EPL players. It was fun, but it's just something different, something interesting. So, today, we have a question from my wife, Jessica, which none of us have seen yet. I'm bringing it up for the first time. Let's see what she has to say. I hope it's good.
Watch it just be something we can't talk about. And the section's ruined.
We're going to talk about it.
Jessica says, if you had to take 4 players in the EPL and put them into each of the Harry Potter houses, who would you choose, and what house would you put
I'm
them
a
in?
fan of Jess. She's a good person. That's a good
I
question.
tend to like her. She's a good wife. I love her. Who wants to start? That's a tough one. We can either all do 4. We can just talk together. Why don't we just pick 4 as a group?
No, I say we each do a team.
It's a lot.
Just fire it out. No explanation. Just fire out.
All right, I'm gonna start.
Your squad of
We're
4.
starting with Slytherin. We're gonna start with Slytherin house. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
first. Erling Haaland's in Slytherin.
That's easy.
He looks like Malfoy.
Same.
He's kind of like someone who's amazing, but you just don't want to like him sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. That's my reasoning. I think it's mainly because he looks like Malfoy. So that probably is the biggest reason for me.
Yeah, and he kind of plays. Slytherin's kind of like the evil house.
Yeah.
He plays for Man City, so that kind of fits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Haaland, yeah, I think
I think we're probably all
he was the
agreed
first
on
guy
that.
to pop in all of our
I
minds.
think we
Yeah.
all agreed on that one.
Haaland Malfoy.
Who wants to take it next? Who wants to take one?
Oh boy.
Gryffindor?
You want to do Gryffindor?
Gryffindor, so like who's like the most
Dave.
wholesome
Dave.
protagonist in the EPL?
You tell me.
Wholesome.
I mean, I have someone that I would put in the
go for it.
Gryffindor.
It's here.
It's Yeonming's son. That's my guy. That's my Gryffindor boy.
That's so good. We were just talking about him too.
Well, it's I'm playing bias here, right? He's one of my favorite players because he was on Leverkusen. He was so good there. And let's be honest, the guy, he's never in trouble. He never causes drama. You see those videos of him when he's crying after, I think
Yeah.
he got out of service for his country's military, I believe, and he just started.
Yeah.
He's just I don't know, something about him. He just seems like a wholesome guy. Like, you just want to go get a beer with him, right? And he works his butt off for that team. Doesn't matter if they're good or bad. He's always working hard every single game. Reminds me a lot of like a Harry Potter type. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
That's very fair. It's very fair. I was trying to think while you were talking because like you don't really get a lot of details about Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff.
Yeah, this is where Phil's wife Megan, who is an avid Harry Potter fan, would come in a lot of handy for us.
Yeah.
I feel like Ravenclaw is kind of like sort of edgy and mysterious.
They're smart, very intelligent.
Yeah.
Hufflepuff are just like dweeby kind souls.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. They're kind of just along for the ride, though.
Yeah.
They're like the also ran house.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, my head went to this person is Yasko Guardiol. He's kind
For who?
of he's smart. He's kind of
Which house?
for Ravenclaw.
Yeah, but we're on Gryffindor, Dave.
No, we already got Son for Gryffindor.
I think Dave made the executive decision that we're picking one player.
Oh, we're all picking
Yeah,
one
well,
I
player?
think we're going to agree as a group to do one
Oh. Okay.
So-
No. So we got Haaland for Slytherin.
We all agreed
Just
on that.
sorry, listeners. I was confusing there. Haaland for Slytherin.
player. Yes.
We got Son for Gryffindor.
Yes.
Ravenclaw. That's not a bad one.
I was struggling with Ravenclaw's characteristics, but he's mysterious. He's kind of edgy. He's a pretty smart player. He wore that mask.
I don't disagree. Hear me out on this one. Odegaard. Because who's that cat's name who dies? And the guy's like, my son, not my son.
Dude, I am not the person to
Because
ask.
he was a Ravenclaw. He was the vampire in that.
Robert Pattinson.
Oh, in the game, the tribal
Yeah.
tournament.
Cedric Diggory.
You're right.
Cedric Diggory kind of has the same hairstyle, and
you're going
Odegaard
with
is kind of that clever player. He's good looking. He's smart. Reminds me of Cedric.
Let's go Odegaard.
You like it?
Yeah, let's go
I
Odegaard.
like Odegaard. We can go Odegaard. I like that. I'm down for that.
All right.
And then what's the last house? We haven't done Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff.
So Hufflepuff for me, when I think of Hufflepuff, I just think, like you said, a little nerdy, kind of just in the background.
Try hard. They're along for the ride.
Listen, I'm gonna throw a name out there and disagree with me if you want.
Maguire.
That is exactly who I was gonna say.
Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire to me is a Hufflepuff.
That's the best one so far.
He's just there in the background. You don't really notice him, but then he also gets noticed for just being awful at things. Looks kind of like
He's
I don't
kind
know.
of big and goofy looking.
That's yes. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
That's the best.
That we just thought of it. I mean, the fact that we read each other's
Yeah,
mind probably
that's good.
Just gotta be that one.
I'm sorry, Harry. We love you.
Yeah, I think he seems like one of the most genuine humans too. Killed it at Leicester,
Great dude.
unfortunate time in Man U, but you're a Hufflepuff, my guy.
Which, hey, listen, a lot of Hufflepuffs out there. We shouldn't disregard them. Some people would love to be a Hufflepuff. It's just not us.
Also, if we take these players at their peak, and some of them are at their peak right now, we have a stud squad. Haaland, Odegaard, Son, and Maguire.
Put Maguire in the net in a 4v4 indoor match. I'm taking our team every time.
Yeah.
He's the goalie, though. We don't even want to play defense.
No, yeah.
No.
That's a heck of a squad right there, boys.
So I know you just said it. Run us through one last time. Run us through who we just picked.
We got the big bad boy Haaland for Slytherin. Looks like them, acts like them. He's part of the bad team in Man City. We got Son as Gryffindor, just the kindest soul in the EPL. We got Odegaard for Ravenclaw. Good looking. It reminds us of Cedric Diggory. Clever. And then we got Maguire. Just a goof.
I love it. That's it.
For
That's
Hufflepuff.
it. I love it. I hope everyone out there appreciated that segment because we had a lot of fun doing that. And I'm kind of excited.
Shout out to Jess.
Shout out to Jess.
Liv and Megan have a lot to live up to.
I think
after that
girl.
one.
I think our wives are going to come up with some really good questions. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to
I
be
agree.
fun. So, with that being said, that's it. First pods in the books, boys. How do you feel?
I feel good. That was
Yeah.
fun.
I feel great.
I feel good. I
was
feel like we
fun.
did. I felt like we had a good time. We went a little longer than we wanted to. Maybe we'll try and cut that down. Who knows? Maybe this is the length we need to go, but
Maybe go double.
maybe double it. What would you, listeners? What do you think about a 7-hour podcast?
Yeah.
Just an all-day event. So yeah. With that being said, I mean, we're gonna wrap it up here. But anyone who's listening out there, if you have any comments, you have any questions, you just want to say hi, maybe you want to give us pointers because we are very new to this and we may not be great at it. Reach out to us at our official email account, which is Final Fantasy Footballers, all lowercase. Footballers is spelled FUTBOLERS @gmail.com. So Final Fantasy Footballers @gmail.com. Like I said, reach out to us there or listen to this recording on our official YouTube channel, Final Fantasy Footballers, and leave us a comment, leave us a like, please, and we'll be back here, same time, same place, guys.
Yeah.
Next week, and we'll start talking about game week 4, game week 5. Sound good?
I'm excited.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right,
for a
everyone.
comeback.
Time for a comeback.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone.
All right.
We will see you next week. Until then, see you.
See ya.
Bye.